Vladimir Mashkov is a very popular actor in Russia, and he spoke at Putin's propaganda rally just a few days ago. You may recognize him. He's been in hit movies like Behind Enemy Lines with Owen Wilson and Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol with Tom Cruise. Well, here's part of what he said at that pro-war Putin rally.
Lackeys are they who compose lampoons behind our army's back, those who seek to be politically correct in the eyes of Europe and America, wallowing in hatred. We are Russian people. We love our country. We are for the world without Nazism. We are for our army, for our president.
Now his daughter, Masha Mashkova, an actress who has lived in the United States for 6 years, opposes the war. And she responded to her father's speech in part, quote, "Today my dad spoke. I really wished that all he had said was true." And Masha Mashkova is now out front. And Masha, of course, the sort of, next unsaid words were, but it is not true. Let me start with this question, Masha. What was it like to see your father standing there and to hear him speak like that?
What's happening right now, it's just unthinkable and surreal. And the fact that so many Russian people, including my dad, believe that this violence is somehow justified, it breaks my heart. But well, it's nothing compared to what Ukrainian people experience now, dying.
So Masha, I want to talk to you about you and your father, but first, you have this perspective on why he believes this. Everyone wants to understand, why do you think that your father and obviously many millions of others in Russia believe what he's saying?
I don't want to talk for him. I can talk for myself. I just see a different reality. I was privileged to travel around the world and to see the world with my own eyes. I worked a lot in Russia and Ukraine. And less than a year ago, I was in Kiev and I saw beautiful, kind Ukrainian people. I have many friends and colleagues there. None of them hated me for being Russian, and none of them asked to be saved by Mr. Putin. That's what I saw.
So what do you want Russians who support Putin's invasion of Ukraine to hear the most right now, Masha? What do you want them to know?
I know that there are a lot of Russians, my friends and colleagues, who are in absolute agony right now, seeing Ukrainian people suffering. And I just hope that we can someday find strength to transform Russia into a country of compassion and progress, not lies and violence. I know that it's easy for me to speak because I'm in another country now, and I'm not sure that I'll be able to come back.
You mentioned your ties to Ukraine, and I know they're deep. You've spent a lot of time there. You've filmed movies there. You've got a lot of friends there. Your husband is half Ukrainian. When you stop for a moment and think, can you believe that so many millions of Russians truly do not know what is happening, what we are seeing, the reality of this human suffering that Putin's invasion is causing Ukrainians?
I talked on the phone with my dad yesterday.
Yeah.
And now I do believe that, unfortunately, yes. I told him that I'm going to speak to you guys, to CNN, and asked if I can tell what he told me. And he said yes. And so he asked me to come back to Russia immediately, to take my daughters with me and to be a good Russian, to ask for forgiveness for betrayal, and to be with Russian people, with my people, to help fight Ukrainian Nazis.
I mean, Masha, I understand, you are you're right, and it's important to make the point, right, that what you're going through is obviously nothing in comparison to what's happening in Ukraine. But yours is yet another family that is now breaking because of this. I mean, it's got to be difficult, right? Your father, you love your father, you call him to have this conversation, and that's the conversation. That's got to be really hard.
It was very hard decision but I'm not only a daughter, I'm a mother. I have two beautiful daughters, and during the pandemic, one of my daughters found a dance teacher, Danya, online in Kiev, of all places. And during all pandemic, they were dancing like 5 or 6 times a week, and they became friends. And when last spring I went to Kiev, I took Steph with me to meet her best friend, her teacher, Danya, and we had such a great time in Kiev. So probably because of their friendship, I decided to share my position on this war, because when the bombing started, my daughter was terrified, and we were with Danya on the phone back and forth constantly. And because of Danya, I speak now, because I know what it means to him as bombs are falling, and because of what it would mean to my daughter later in life.
And do you think, Masha, do you want to ever go back to Russia?
I love my father very much. He's one of the greatest actors living today. And I love my grandmother, my mom's mom, who raised me. She is in Russia now, and she also believes Putin's version of reality. But I was shooting in Russian TV projects on Russian TV, so I'm part of this system. My grandmother was watching me in those TV shows about good vet or investigator, and after that, she was watching propaganda. I didn't think that I do any harm, but it turns out I also did.
Tonight, military strategists are trying to get inside Vladimir Putin's head and understand Russia's decision to fire powerful hypersonic missiles into Ukraine. Brian Todd is looking into the story for us. Brian, these missiles are very fast and they're very dangerous.
Right, Wolf. You know, we've been reporting on the development of hypersonic missiles for months now, but this is the first known use of these missiles in combat. We have new information tonight on the capabilities of these missiles used by the Russians and the possible reasons why they launched them. Vladimir Putin unveils a new weapon in his arsenal. U.S. officials confirming to CNN that Russia launched hypersonic missiles against Ukraine in recent days, the first known use of these missiles ever in combat. The missiles the Russians call kinzhals, meaning dagger, struck a military ammunition warehouse in western Ukraine. Sources telling CNN the U.S. tracked the launches in real time.
It's a good opportunity to test it. It's also potentially a signal to NATO, to Poland, other countries, that they have this and to kind of keep their distance.
Experts say what makes the hypersonic missile so dangerous is that it can fly as fast as 5 times the speed of sound or greater, and is more maneuverable in flight than other missiles.
It uses GPS coordinates or a similar system to hone in on a target. It can also be directed by a controller to specific targets, and it can change course in the middle of its trajectory. It can follow the nap of the Earth. It's called nap of the Earth navigation, and it can go right down on the ground where it basically evades radar coverage.
A senior U.S. defense official tells CNN Putin's deployment of a hypersonic missile to hit that ammunition warehouse, quote, is a bit of a head scratcher. Why would you need a hypersonic missile fired from not that far away to hit a building? Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin also wondered that aloud in an interview with CBS as he downplayed Russia's use of the weapon.
I don't think that this in and of itself will be a game changer. You kind of question why he would do this. Is he running low on precision guided munitions? Does he have complete confidence in his ability to the ability of his troops to reestablish momentum?
Military analysts say what is worrisome about the hypersonic missile is the lack of U.S. defense capability against it.
When it is launched, it is impossible to intercept this missile.
Why?
We have no technologies that can do that. Right now, the developments that we're looking at from a missile defense perspective are way behind the development of these hypersonic missiles.
One expert says Putin could deploy hypersonic missiles again in Ukraine, and there's a possibility that the Russians could misuse the weapon.
We've already seen some Russian drones stray off into NATO territory. You could have cruise missiles stray off, as they have in the past, into Iran when Russia's fired these things in the past. So whether it's hypersonic or subsonic, there's always the potential for miscalculation or just something going wrong.
Just moments ago, President Biden confirmed Russia's use of hypersonic missiles, saying it's almost impossible to stop it. There's a reason they're using it, end quote from the president, Wolf. It's a pretty scary capability.
Bomb blitz shocking moment. Russia blows up shopping center with ballistic missile in latest brutal attack targeting civilians. Horror video shows the moment a Russian missile obliterates a Kiev shopping mall, killing 8 people. The enormous explosion annihilated the Retroville Mall in the northwest of the Ukrainian capital and was so powerful it pulverized vehicles in the car park. In the footage, the missile can be briefly seen heading straight down towards the mall, creating an enormous fireball. The video was reportedly released by the Russian military itself in a bid to prove Ukrainian forces were using the mall to station their own missiles and justify the brutal attack. Other chilling video captured by a nearby CCTV camera shows the moment a rocket hits the building, sending a fireball hundreds of feet into the air. The blast launches debris everywhere while nearby buildings are rocked by the gigantic boom, blowing out their windows. Photos of the aftermath in the Podilskyi district of Kiev show how the attack left the mall a smoldering wreck and utterly devastated. A vast crater was left behind as rescuers scrambled to pull bloodied victims strewn amongst the rubble. Police said at least 8 people had been killed amid fears dozens of others were missing in the carnage. On Monday, Mayor Vitaly Klitschko said the attack was one of several bombs to be dropped on the city overnight. Others flattened homes, offices and a gym were also hit as the city braces for a 26th day of Russian onslaughts. After the mall attack, the former heavyweight boxing champion declared the start of another 35-hour curfew, going from 8 p.m. this evening until 7 a.m. on Wednesday. The attack is just the latest example of merciless Russian troops shelling civilian areas. The Ukrainian Prosecutor General's office has said 150 children have now been killed with 148 injured in the armed aggression by the Russian Federation on Ukraine. They suggested that the actual figures may be higher because of difficulties in confirming details in a war zone. The prosecutor's office said the largest number of confirmed victims was 58 in Kiev. The eastern city of Kharkiv has recorded 38 child deaths, while Donetsk has seen 29 child deaths and Chernihiv 31. Defiant. Latest developments in the war-torn country have also seen Ukraine boldly reject Russia's ultimatum to surrender the besieged city of Mariupol. Russia promised to create 2 humanitarian corridors if troops gave up the key city and soldiers stopped fighting. But Ukraine's deputy prime minister declined the 11th-hour demand, according to reports. Thousands are reported to have died in the port city following endless Russian missile strikes. Locals have been forced to bury the dead in mass graves and makeshift burials at the roadside. Meanwhile, Mariupol Mayor Vadim Boychenko likened Russian President Vladimir Putin to Adolf Hitler after reports his invading troops were forcibly deporting Ukrainians to sinister Russian work camps. He said Moscow's actions were like the horrific events of World War II, when the Nazis forcibly captured people. Western intelligence estimates Russia is losing up to 1,000 troops per day. That would be its fastest rate of casualties since the Second World War.